Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome into Attacking Third. Today we have a big slate of topics that we have to get through. We are sticking with our NWSL teams in the offseason. We're hitting Seattle Reign today. We're playing Build a Player. I'll explain it later. BOS Nation. There's a lot happening there with this 15th expansion team. And then, of course, in case you missed it, news and notes. Alongside Sandra Herrera, I'm Lisa Carlin. Wait, Sandra, there's something on our screen. Do you see something there? Is there something in this video with us? Do you see it? It's Darian Jenkins.
Wow, you guys, I'm impressed. You both did the same thing. You guys are insane.
We didn't plan that. I mean, you've left us alone together too long, Darian. We're just so happy you're back.
No, I'm happy to be back. I've missed you guys a lot. I've been going stir crazy, actually. I've been listening to all the shows. You guys are doing great. The games are fun. The games sound fun. Who's winning the one on Monday, by the way? The trivia.
Name the player.
Yeah.
Christine won that, and I'm still a little bitter about it.
I heard it in your voice.
We both felt like we had enough for like the second clue, but the self-doubt monster was strong on Monday, and we were like, we need a third clue, but.
And Christine, you know her; she's pretty confident in herself.
The check
I would have gotten them wrong because I would have tried to guess
for Cooper on Monday too. So shout out to the chat for chiming in.
Okay.
Oh gosh. Well, Darian, we've really missed you. How has it been? Have you been enjoying your off time?
It's been great. It's been weird because I feel like there's not games for us to watch really. Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been very needed. It's a long NWSL season, long European season. So yeah, it was nice to have that little break, but I'm really happy to be back.
Oh, we are so happy. And we know our listeners are happy to see you, hear you as well. Let us know, guys. Say hey to Darian. If you're with us live on YouTube, if you're watching on Galazzo, let us know on socials. Guys, we have some really big news. Before we get into all the stories and the topics, Attacking Third is finalists in not one, but two categories for the Sports Podcast Awards. One of them is for the Best Football Podcast, and the other one is for the Diverse Voices Awards. In the past, as we know, we've been nominated for these before. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. But this is 100% fan voted. So we need you guys. Voting is open right now through January 13th. There is a QR code on your screen right now. Scan it and vote for Attacking Third. You can click the link in the podcast description. There's going to be a link in the chat on YouTube. Thank you for listening, and go vote for Attacking Third. Let's go.
Tell your friends.
Yep.
Tell your friends.
Tell a friend to tell
It's the holidays. Whenever you find yourself crossed over in a room full of loved ones, you should be like, real quick, let me borrow your phone. Let me vote for A3. Let's go out and do it.
Exactly. Spam everyone's phone.
Yep.
Yeah, don't talk politics. Talk A3.
Yeah, just vote for A3.
NWSL in the offseason, it is meant and built for trades and signings, hirings and firings, and we've seen that a lot. But each individual NWSL club, they have to bulk up. This week, today, we are talking about Seattle Reign. They finished second to last year in the NWSL in the 13th spot, 23 points, just 6 wins, 5 draws, and 15 L's for Seattle. They had a goal differential of -17. The biggest loss that they faced in the middle of the season was losing defender Sofia Huerta. She went on loan to Lyon. So far in this offseason, Seattle has signed free agent defender after her rookie season with Angel City, Madison Curry. She's signed through 2027. They've also waived forward Mackenzie Weinert. She is currently on loan with Spokane FC in the USL Super League through December, and they've waived her. But there's a lot of players right now at Seattle that are still available for free agency, and they haven't re-signed. Some of the big ones include a lot of midfielders: Olivia Athens, Maddie Mercado, Quinn, Nikki Stanton, defender Lou Barnes, forward Z King, and then a couple goalkeepers in Laurel Ivory and Maya Perez. But Darian, when you think about Seattle in 2024, this past season, and they struggled to get above the table, to put string games together and have confidence, but what was their biggest Achilles heel last year?
Let me pick
Welcome
one.
back. We're asking you the hard questions first.
Jumping right in. No, I'm happy to answer this because Seattle, it's frustrating when you look at their roster. I'm going through all of the players right now. They don't have a bad team. They have a very talented team. But if you look at 2023 to 2024, they're missing those it factor players, those players that help define your style of play. Seattle was still playing like a style of play like they had Megan Rapinoe on their team, to be quite honest. They were trying to send crosses into the box. They were looking for wingers to make everything happen, but they were really missing that X factor player. They're Rose Lavelle, another player who can completely change a team, completely change a game, regardless of who she's playing with. And they just don't have that. And I don't know if it's that they didn't have room on their roster or money to afford those type of players anymore, because they do have a lot of players. When you look at all of these players, especially that are free agents, a lot of them fit into sort of a very similar caliber player. But who's going to go be that 1v1 artist that can break any defender down that you're going to key in on? That's going to open up other players when a team is so focused on that player. They don't necessarily have that anymore. And that is something that they really need to change. And that's why I think they struggled so much this last season, is they played very predictable. G was really putting the team on her back. Jess Fishlock was putting the team on her back. And they had some moments where players could step up, but there wasn't anyone consistently enough that they could build the team on throughout the entire season. And other teams preyed on that.
Sandra, when you think about this Seattle team, what do they need in this offseason? What's like the number one go get for the Reign?
Yeah, I think when you look at the last season that they came off, you wonder how much of it was connected to maybe a little bit of an adjustment period for this franchise. That's a huge retirement in Megan Rapinoe, but the loss of a Rose Lavelle, the loss of an Emily Sonnet in free agency was something that I think maybe they were a little underprepared for, because to note what Darian said, there was some times and stretches of the season in their play where it just was lacking. There was never really that definitive player to kind of grab a game by the scruff of its neck and take it and run with it, type of thing. And I would argue that maybe some of their midseason trades were not so much symbolic of like a white flag, but this was a very long struggle of a season for Seattle Reign. And maybe with the prospect of eventual new ownership coming in, some of their hands were tied as far as the type of moves that they could make, but they did make some. We saw a trade for Jalen Howell take place midseason. The signing of Norelia Mondesir. These are players where I'm eager to see how they are going to fit into Seattle's scheme in 2025. What does a healthy Jalen Howell provide for a Seattle Reign that got bullied sometimes in the middle of the pitch? Maybe she's going to be that presence. And now you have a G that has an entire season under her belt of NWSL play. Will she be able to sort of recreate and reproduce a little bit of those magic moments that we saw throughout 2024, but do it in another season where maybe there are lessons that were learned here for Seattle? As far as what they need to go get, they do have to get that kind of it factor player, but who is that player and what line are they going to be across? Are we talking an attacking line, the midfield? I think they could still use maybe another player, or even the back line at this point. I mean, Lauren Barnes is a staple for Seattle. Is this a player that finds herself in this stage of her career that will maybe try to give it one more go, with Seattle for another year? Or do they maybe take a look at that free agency list and see who they can maybe kind of bring into the fold? I'm curious that maybe Sam Hyatt is someone who went to a rival team in Portland Thorns, once played in Seattle, and maybe there were some windows open there for possibility, but now that's shut. So maybe they go for someone like a Kelly Hubley-Melly. I wonder if maybe they take a look at the back versus the front a little bit, and maybe try to become a team that builds out a little bit more.
Ooh, it's funny. I think the opposite.
Ooh,
I think they need attackers. They need somebody. Imagine a Midge Purse, a Lynn Williams, a Sophia Smith at the front for Seattle. That would completely change. Whoops, watch my mic. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Completely change the way that teams approach going into a game against them. If you don't have that, no team is looking at them and thinking, well, we really have to adjust how we're going to defend, how we're going to set up, who we're going to put on. We need to double down. We're going to leave this gap here, be vulnerable on this side. Seattle this year, there was no real consideration of it. Maybe sometimes it's Zara King. When she was on, she can be that player, but I think they need players that other teams really have to respect in the front and then build from there. Because you can make the game ugly by just bombing the ball forward and letting your forwards deal with it.
That's true. If
you're defending the whole game, what are you getting out of anybody else?
Grind away.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we saw that all year.
Yes. Yeah.
They have to change their game plan too, right? Unless they get a superstar forward, Darian. But who's available for them to get it domestically? I don't think there's anyone currently on the free agency list that is going to change the game for them. I think Midge Purse could add a lot as a free agent, but they are going to have to look outside the NWSL to get a player that is going to change everything in their front line for them. Because of the style that Seattle plays, they just weren't threatening enough with the players that they have, right? It was band-aids over bullet wounds, losing the big holes that Rapinoe, Sonnet, and Lavelle left this year. But when you look at this free agency list in the NWSL, is there anyone that you're like, they would do a great job? They would change up what Seattle is doing and they would make them a team to be scared of in 2024?
I kind of said who I thought already. I think Midge Purse is a really good one. I'm going through the list now.
So there's a couple.
I wish I was still playing. There's a lot.
I think Amira could be fun on this roster.
I don't.
Not enough?
No, I don't think so.
But
I don't think enough that would really have to change. That's a similar Heidema to me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
They might have to go outside, what you alluded to, Lisa.
Yeah.
And Laura Harvey, and Gallimore, they're no strangers to looking outside and bringing someone in. I just wonder, like, maybe there was a little signaling there with getting a Mondesir into play. But again, how do these players that you've continue to acquire, are going to fit into whatever scheme you want to do in 2025? That's what it's about.
Claire Emsley. I think she could be a game changer. She plays in that 10 position. She plays on the front line. She's good at set pieces. Could be something.
If Seattle can't get an attacking player to change the game, and they were to bring someone in their midfield that was going to take control of the game, be a playmaker, and set all those forwards that are currently on the roster for Seattle up for success, is there anyone that comes to mind that could be a playmaker a little bit deeper, not necessarily be the out-and-out forward that's going to threaten you and cause chaos? Is there anyone right now in free agency in the NWSL that could change the game for Seattle deeper in the midfield?
Lisa, I feel like you might have someone.
I mean, just say it, Lisa. Say what you
Do you have anyone though?
Or is that the question where you're just like, is there even?
I don't know.
No, another forward I thought of, Kristen Hamilton. I mean, for me, it's crazy to me she didn't play more for Kansas City this year.
That is crazy.
It's crazy. And when she has, I know Kristen as well, and when she has vengeance in her mind to go and score, she's going to score. She's a proven goal scorer. Seattle would be crazy to pass her up in this free agency window.
Lisa,
there's some of the other free agents that I wrote down: Midge Purse, Kristen Hamilton, Amira Ali, Lena Solano, the rookie out of Washington. She's not a superstar yet, but I think there's a lot of growth. Laura Harvey does a good job with younger players and helping them develop and step up to their next game. Danielle Colaprico is still a free agent.
Crazy.
Yeah.
San Diego would be wild to let her go.
Yeah, but Seattle would be great to get her.
San Diego needs...
They need somebody. They need somebody.
San Diego needs
They need somebody to keep that ball. Win that ball and keep that ball. And
that would be such a terrible move to let Danny Colaprico go. I hope she's negotiating right now at San Diego for some cash money because they need her.
Oh boy.
Sandra, you were about to say something. I cut you off.
I know you and I are both big fans of this player. And you were talking about the midfield specifically. Do you think Narumi is someone who could find their way to Seattle from North Carolina?
Ooh. Narumi and G.
I don't think North Carolina is going to let her go.
I hope they don't. They don't, but I mean,
it would be silly to let her go.
Yeah. Well,
That's a good shout. Yeah, Narumi and G in the midfield. Ooh,
that'd be insane.
That would be really fun. Oh, we'll see. Seattle has a lot to bulk up before the preseason starts in January. It sounds like they need to look outside of the NWSL, bring in some internationals, but that also takes time, right? There was a little bit of time for Mondesir to get into the game. G ultimately was such a game changer, but it's a big adjustment to come into this league. Laura Harvey has a big task ahead of her at Seattle. We'll see. There's a lot of offseason still to come. And more teams. We're hitting every single team in the NWSL and talking what they need to improve throughout this series and throughout the offseason. So stick around for it. But guys, we're playing a little game next segment. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, welcome back to Attacking Third. Remember in the malls as kids when you'd go and you'd like pick out a stuffed animal and you'd fill it with fluff and put a little heart in it and you'd build a bear? Well, we're doing that today, but with players in the league. We are building a player, picking the best attributes from current players who already exist to make our super player or ultimate player, if you will. Each player has 3 attributes that we can grab, and it can be anything from their experience to their shot ability to their speed, their IQ, anything you want. And we are building our own ultimate players. Darian, are you ready? You looked a little shocked. Did you not read the rundown?
No, I read it. I didn't realize it said 3. I must have skipped over that.
That's all right. You know what that means? The segment's going to be amazing. It's going to be fine.
It's going to be perfect. Matter. There are absolutely no rules here at Attacking Third.
Except 3.
Do what we want.
Do whatever. We'll let you. Did you do like
10?
Did you over prepare?
I did a little. I picked a lot of attributes, but we can narrow them down. I'm going to go through my ultimate player. I obviously picked a striker. Center forward is what I was thinking. So to start off, finishing ability, Bunny Shaw. Girl can score from anywhere, any type of surface, either foot. Strength, Myra Ramirez. Here's where I like go a little haywire because I'm just going to keep going. Dribbling ability, Carolina Graham Hansen.
Nice.
Now I went into specifics. Left foot, Marta. Right foot, Bon Mati. Speed of Shoinga. And then I thought, well, there's more attributes. Hair game, Corey Bethune. Style, Trinity Rodman.
Nice.
And that would be my ultimate striker if I could create one out of all the current players that I thought of yesterday when I sent this to Mark.
This is hilarious.
Incredible.
But I can narrow it down and just do my first 3. Finishing, Bunny Shaw. Strength, Myra Ramirez. And dribbling, Carolina Graham Hansen.
That's pretty good. It's pretty dang good ultimate player. When I initially heard that we were doing this, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, I want Marta's left foot. I want this player's head. I literally was going like piece by piece. And then I read the rundown. So I knew it was 3 only.
It's producer Mark. I sent it to him and he's like, this is great.
Incredible.
I don't know. Absolutely no rules. Okay, your player sounds a little terrifying to play against. All right, Sandra, hit us with your ultimate player.
Yeah, I mean, look, similar to like going through attributes. I figured we'd just like smash all these together and like get one incredible attacking third player. So going off of what Darian presented, I'm going to go with maybe some other attributes. I want a player that's going to have the ability to connect that long pass when they need to. So I'm going to take Roosevelt's kind of vision and her ability to do that. And I also really was trying to figure out, like, based on some of the performance that we saw in 2024 between Chewinga and Banda, maybe some of their different abilities in as far as their finishing. And the championship final, watching Banda score that game winner, making a goal like that look so easy, just kind of how she did throughout the entire season. I just kind of like, maybe it's the recency bias. I'm like, I'm gonna go with Banda's finishing ability for me. So I we couldn't get out of this segment without mentioning both of those players, but in this case, I'm gonna go with Banda and her ability to finish. And you know what, I think we need to give some love to defenders, because I don't know if we've prepared to defensive side of things. But if we've got to go with an attribute, I'll go with marking. And I was torn a little bit, but I'm going to just go with Girma at this point, because I think we can all agree that she's an incredible defender. But Emily Sams was a close one for me too. But I'm going to go with Girma for marking.
Great shout.
Sandra's
defenders love to.
Yeah, and Sandra's created a well-rounded player that can play on both sides of the ball because they can mark.
Yeah,
Trying our best.
Yeah, but Darian's player is going to look the best.
It's all vibes.
Yeah.
Wow,
look good,
this
play
is
good.
amazing. Okay, so I had some initially that I had to pare back on. One of them including like defensive attributes, but for my ultimate player, I have the confidence, the swag, the cheekiness, the demeanor, but ultimately the attitude of Trinity Rodman.
Love it.
The power of Barbara Banda. Her speed. And I did adjectives so that I could encompass more things into these. And
Smart girl.
Of Marta. Because a player that is feisty, unstoppable, and a maestro on the ball, being able to deliver balls on a dime. I want them to be able to be physical enough to challenge anything in the air and harden to tackles. And then I was looking at defenders and I wanted the positioning of Girma, but I chose to go all attack and all like fun on the ball. But the attitude of Trinity Rodman in my player is just going to be so cheeky, so clever, so the attitude, right, of being in your face, of going at other players. I mean, to me, this is it, the ultimate. So I've got the attitude of Rodman, the power of Banda, and the touch of Marta. Talk about a chef's kiss of a player.
I love it. If we did have to create one attacking third player, it's not just like Lisa's, Darian, Sandra. Like we each only get like one attribute for one A3 represented player. Like, which are the attributes that you are choosing?
Oh, that's
finishing.
A good one.
Finishing for you. So Bunny finishing.
Yeah,
Bunny's finishing.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll take that. I'll take Bunny's finishing.
Build on that.
I'm going to go defensively in the positioning of Girma, because her positioning, it's not just defensively, but attacking wise, like she's always in the right spot. She understands the game so well. So her positioning on the field.
Okay. So we've got a finisher, we've got defensive. So we need something like in the middle. So do we want to lean more acceleration ability, or do we want to lean more like maybe connective? Like long passing.
I feel connective.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna stick with Lavelle then. I think I'm gonna stick with the
that's a great
Lavelle's
shout.
connectivity. Yeah. There's our ultimate A3 player.
Wow. So Girma, Shaw, and Lavelle.
Rose Lavelle.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. That's
okay.
Wild.
So if the three of our ultimate players, not our attacking third player, but the three of ours played 1v1v1, who would win?
I think I would win based off of just goals, but we would concede a lot. It'd be Kansas City 2024, but we would outscore.
That's true. Wait, what was yours again? Finishing, Bunny Straw, strength,
Myra Ramirez, dribbling ability, Carolina Graham Hansen.
Those are great. I love those. I'm a Graham fan.
We're not defending.
You're not defending. You got a Bethune and the style of Rodman. That one to me.
We look good.
Yeah. Those are important. Those are important attributes.
You look good, you feel good, you play good. Yes. Come on.
Absolutely. This was really fun. I liked building our ultimate player. If you guys at home listening, watching have attributes or players that we didn't include, let us know. What attributes of players would you want to see in your ultimate player?
Ooh, we got one from Paul Brown for crossing. Which player would you all pick?
Ooh.
Crossing? Man.
I would say
that's
Megan Rapinoe.
tricky.
Oh, but it has to be
Retired.
current players, huh?
Legend.
She's
I'm going to
retired.
go Ovalle.
Ooh, Jackie Ovalle.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I'm going to go Karchawi.
Sick.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Or even some of Bacha. Oh, man. There's a
Yeah.
few. But I'll stick with
Ooh,
Ovalle.
Yeah, I like Ovalle. That's a good shout. Wow, that's a good one.
Thanks, Paul. Good question.
Yeah, great question, Paul. Let us know other attributes that you would take from current players to combine and make your ultimate player. Okay, guys, don't go anywhere. We've got more Attacking Third coming up next. We're talking NWSL's 15th expansion team, potentially BOS Nation. Stick with us. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. BOS Nation is back in the conversation, and they're back at the top of our news circuits. Not always the best thing you want to hear. So Boston is the 2026 expansion team that is set to be the 15th NWSL team, but there's been a lot of different failures and setbacks, including their failed launch campaign of too many balls, the initial name and branding of BOS Nation. Last month, we talked about the club saying that they've heard all the complaints about it. They're listening to the fans, and they're going to take plans to correct that. Now, Sandra, according to recent court documents, NWSL's BOS Nation, the debut could be disrupted thanks to potential stadium renovation delays. There is a lot here that we have to unpack. Sandra, what the heck is going on?
Too much, honestly. Like that's what it feels like for Boston. Not to like make a pun off of the too many campaign, but it is sort of feels like too much at this point. And I think what raises the anxiety meter around it a little bit is that 2026 is coming a lot closer than I think people anticipate. We're about to ring in a new year, 2025, and for NWSL Boston to date, they have had now the longest buildup, this window, this run up of time to expansion than any other expansion franchise in NWSL history. So they've had the longest amount of time to essentially get their stuff together, and it's kind of in limbo. It sort of feels like, and I think that's part of the frustration or the ongoing frustrations within this franchise, because even though they announced their plans initially in September of 2023, part of their expansion plans included this long-term project, like a rehab project for the White Stadium within the Franklin Park area of Boston. And so they launched a few renderings about those plans, what they were going to look like. Understandably, there's concerns around such a massive undertaking, right? Public versus private funds, but this is mostly all private, 50 million through the ownership group. The Boston mayor was on board. She was very complimentary during the launching of this expansion deal. But ultimately, White Stadium is owned by Boston Public Schools. So, despite kind of falling into some disarray, I mean, it's still used. It's primarily used for football, for soccer, track and field events, in addition to just like other community uses. And so there's also like some underlying question marks around that. What would that mean for the future of BOS Nation? Like, how would that look when we're talking about primary, secondary uses? And what would that make BOS Nation? Would that make them tertiary or quinary type of tenants? So there's been a lot more questions than answers around this overall project for White Stadium, this place that was pitched in their expansion bid process to play NWSL games here. And now as 2026 gets closer, there's all these question marks, especially because as part of this plan, they were supposed to break ground on a lot of these initiatives to rehab in early 2025, and winter of 2025 is right around the corner. So there's a back and forth right now. There's litigation going on. There was an attempt to try to push back those dates, but the club is saying that that's going to be a victory for them because that decision, that court date, is still in place for March. They're positive that things are still going to kind of swing in their favor, essentially, that they want to continue to be good partners. They want to work with the city of Boston to essentially, continue, working on this rehabilitation project and make sure that this all gets underway. But there's all these other kind of contingency plans in place as well that maybe raises some red flags, for this project, that there's already conversations around what it's going to look like in case things get stalled again and again, or if the money around this project continues to balloon. Because at one point you're projecting 50 million. Now it's already, I think, over the 90 million mark. So to go from one number to that number, I think also kind of like, makes people a little bit nervous. So there's definitely a wait and see approach, but unfortunately it's within a timeline where there's not a lot of time to wait and see.
The timeline already for Boston is really long, right? The bid that they put in to become the 15th NWSL expansion team was years ago at this point. This has been such a long time coming, and now it feels like at crunch time, it's crumbling. Is the worst case scenario here, Sandra, that they don't start play in 2026? Like, is that possibility on the table?
Yeah, I think that is the worst case scenario. Memory serves me correct. I believe within their expansion bid process that the league does have a role here in eventually being the ultimate deciders of saying, we're going to put the brakes on this and pump the brakes on this until you figure things out, essentially. So NWSL Boston, BOS Nation, they have a responsibility now at this point to follow through with their commitment to, after being awarded this expansion franchise. And if they're unable to keep up essentially their end of the bargain, the league can absolutely push back, the table, timeline even further for this club.
Darian, as a player, when you know that an expansion side is coming, right? Even in Boston, a great city, I'm sure a lot of people want to go there and play. How concerned are you with this conversation, the lawsuits that's going on? Or is it too far in the future? You're kind of just like, I'll get through 2025.
Yeah, I think from a player's perspective, it's like, okay, so it's not happening soon. Let's get through 2025 and figure it out. But I think the concern from a player's perspective stems more so from, why is the league approving bids to come in where there's so much gray area and a tight timeline for them to be able to, even though Sandra said they've had the longest, runway up to having a stadium and providing a team. Why are we even doing this? Why aren't we going somewhere where we know as soon as a team comes in, they're going to be set? I think players shouldn't be having to be concerned about, oh God, hey, if I get traded there, if I get picked up in free agency, or if that's the only option I have, what are we going to be, in a trailer at the stadium? Or we're going to be having to sharing facilities with collegiate teams? We're professional athletes. So I was kind of rolling my eyes listening and reading all of the articles about this, because I feel, why is the NWSL approving teams when there needs to be more substantial evidence that the city is ready? There needs to be more checks and balances to make sure everything is prepared before it's given there. Because, hey, shout out Philly. I know Philly would love to have a team. They have a bid. I mean, I think there just needs to be a much better process for teams to come into the league. And if they're not ready, let's not give it to them. Let's wait another year, keep building the NWSL, keep filtering players in and out before we bring in ownership and facilities that are not up to par for what these players deserve.
I swear I didn't even pay Darian to say Philly.
But I'm like, Philly's been screaming. Philly's been screaming for a women's team.
Oh,
like,
my goodness.
as Boston has, but have more proper facilities and setups so that players and everybody in the league can feel confident that a team is going there.
A follow-up for you, Darian, because when I saw this part of it, I immediately thought of the players and sort of where they've been and now where they're going. But in a number of these reports, primarily the Boston Globe, mention that this future franchise has considered Nickerson Field as a potential option. We're talking a field at Boston University as a backup plan. And this has been, again, this was part of the maybe contingency plan part of the pitch bid. And so it's like, it's definitely not their plan A, but the possibility that this could be a plan B and or C, where it's like, it's really kind of throwing it back, because this is where like the Breakers at one point found themselves playing. Like, what is that like sort of signal, to use a former player? Like, what are we doing? Does it feel a little bit backwards?
Yeah, and no discredit to BU. I mean, I know it's a great stadium, it's a great field, they have a great crowd.
Yeah.
But it's a professional effing team. What men's team in any sport would ever consider doing something like this? That the contingency plan is to go play at a collegiate stadium. That is not a thing. Why is it? The way I read that is, I was like, why is it the women always, it's okay, they'll deal with it. The backup plan, the contingency plan to go play at a college stadium. No, that is not good enough. The league, to me, that is backtracking on so much progress that the league has made, but especially with Kansas City coming into the mix and that stadium, you should feel so much pressure to have all of your shit together when you bring a team into the league now. That should have set a new standard.
Before Kansas City built CPKC Stadium, they were playing at Children's Mercy Park, which is a big, huge, beautiful stadium. You look at other expansion sides in Bay FC, they're playing at PayPal Park. Like, that's a great facility too.
It needs to be equivalent to what the men are playing or better. We cannot regress to being back at a collegiate stadium that is not specific for the team, for that sport. That's crazy to me. It's disrespectful to the players. It's disrespectful to how far the league has come. And Boston all around needs to do better. And the league needs to be better about checking everything over to make sure that they are fully prepared to bring a team in when they say they're going to.
They just hired a GM. Like, how much does this affect his ability to try to bring in players at this point?
That's a hard sell. I don't want to go. Like, there's already how many false promises that have failed?
And
I guess we'll see at March.
A lot wrong.
Yeah. I guess March is that deadline for the next court date. So we'll see. Maybe
Sandra, and bringing in that GM and being in the fire right now at BOS Nation, they held a media availability earlier this week with their controlling owner, Jennifer Epstein. Of course, this was supposed to be surrounding their new GM and excitement, right? You don't hold media availability expecting it to be negative, but a lot of questions turned towards this lawsuit. Did we get any answers from the media availability?
No, Epstein was, I tried to make it about the general manager. Unfortunately, when there are this many questions around your franchise, I think you got to try to be a little bit more prepared to field some of those questions, even if they are just sort of your more generic type of answer for that, or say, hey, there is going to be an answer forthcoming on that. They had a statement, out of the decision to uphold that March trial date. So I guess we all need to refer to that, but that's tough when you're trying to progress and move forward and for example, have this press conference with your general manager, but there are still lingering questions around parts of the bid process, the stadium rehabilitation project specifically. And maybe your unwillingness to answer, maybe folks think that that's a sign of not great things. So, I think it puts, to echo Darian, I think it maybe puts that GM in an even more difficult spot to try to make sure that you're building a good team.
It is a business to have a team, to have a women's professional team, and it needs to be treated and respected like one. And right now it's absolutely not, with the lawsuit and the litigation and everything that's coming around BOS Nation right now. Plus the backtracking on their campaign, their name. It feels like they're stepping in a lot of muddy waters.
What could go wrong has gone wrong.
Wrong. It's been rough. Of course, as news continues to come out about it, updates and statements are made from BOS Nation. Guys, we'll keep you updated as it unfolds. But don't go anywhere. There's a lot that's happened in women's football, and we're breaking it all down next. Hey everyone, welcome back to Attacking Third. In case you missed it, news and notes, we're filling you in on everything that's happened around the world of women's football that frankly we haven't talked about yet. Darian, I know you've been listening to these while you've been out, so you've been staying up to date on everything. Well, today, guys, we've got big news in terms of the Women's World Cup. It's set for Brazil in 2027, and yesterday FIFA confirmed the dates. It'll take place from June 24th to July 25th of 2027. It's 3 years away, which is not far at all. We're just getting some of these tiny details. Meanwhile, the men's side, they're like planning for 30, 34. It's incredibly insane how this is unfolding. But hey, we've got dates for the tournaments. Mark your calendars, June 24th to July 25th in Brazil in 2027. Collegiately, UNC has returned to the top of the women's soccer pyramid. I'm rolling my eyes as well. Darian, national champions, UNC for the 23rd time in program histories. The Tar Heels defeated Wake Forest. It happened Monday in Cary, North Carolina. A score of 1-0, a second half set piece banger from Olivia Thomas. She scored the game winner on a free kick. And this UNC side, I mean, they had been through a lot this year. So the fact that they were able to come out on top is pretty impressive. At the start of the year, their legendary head coach, Anson Doran, stepped away. It was Damon Nahas, brother of North Carolina Courage head coach Sean Nahas, who stepped up. They had about a dozen players leave, whether it was transferring out or going pro, and they had to call up a lot of players. Freshmen had to step up to big roles, and they did it. I mean, 23 times, Darian, that's a lot of times to be national champion.
It's a sick amount of times. That's somebody that's graduated college. Like let somebody else win.
That's a
no,
whole
I'm just saying. I love Damon. Damon coached me when I was younger with U15 U to U17, and he's an amazing coach. Lisa, you did a great interview with him. I loved listening to it, and he's just a great guy that can turn a program around even when there's a mass exodus of players, and they really deserve this. So shout out to UNC. You won again. You ever get tired of winning this freaking tournament? My God.
Gotta give them
UNC, they called it a drought because they hadn't won in 12 years. That's so crazy. Meanwhile, Wake Forest, this was just their second ever tournament.
Mental. That's the drought. The drought is that we haven't won in 12 years and that you've already had like over 20 national titles. Incredible.
Brutal.
It's impressive though.
I'm also bitter because UNC did not want me when I went to college. That was a school that was like, no.
Tell them how you really feel. Years
They're
later.
in Arizona State, randomly.
Very random. Well, UCLA was happy to have you. And look at you now, a flourishing Bruin. Fabulous. In Italy, guys, the women's Milan derby was played at San Siro for the first time ever. AC Milan against Inter Milan. It ended 1-1, but there was a lot of action right around the halfway point. Inter scored in the 45th plus 1 minute. It was Elisa Baroni at the end of the first half. And then in the opening 6 minutes of the second 45, Milan equalized in the 51st minute. Nadia Nadim getting the equalizer. It ends 1-1, but at San Siro. Pretty cool. In NWSL front office news, North Carolina Courage's chief soccer officer, Kurt Johnson, is leaving to pursue other opportunities. The club announced that they will begin an international search to fill the role and build on their storied success. Elsewhere in head coaching news, Aston Villa women can confirm that manager Robert DePaul has left the club with immediate effect. This was big news earlier this week. Sean Gautier is in charge now until a new manager is appointed. A little bit of up and down there for Aston Villa. In NWSL free agency news, there's a lot to update you all on here, so take a listen. The Houston Dash have hired Angela Hucles-Mangiano as the president of women's soccer. She was formerly at Angel City as the GM, and now Hucles is at the Houston Dash. Houston Dash have also re-signed defender Jalissa Harris, as well as signing Alicia Chapman, another defender, to a contract that will re-begin. It's a new contract for Chapman, and it's a mutual option all the way through 2027 season. San Diego Wave, they have traded defender Kristen Westphal to the Houston Dash in exchange for a 2025 international slot, $14,000 in allocation money, and an additional performance-based allocation money. Allocation money is set to be leaving the NWSL, so it's kind of like monopoly money at this point. But either way, Houston Dash, they're signing defenders, right? In Jalissa Harris, Alicia Chapman, and now Kristen Westphal. Bay FC, meanwhile, they have re-signed a lot of key players, a trio including goalkeeper Emmy Allen, midfielder Caroline Conti, and midfielder Jamie Shepard. They all have new contracts for 2025 with an option for 2026. Orlando Pride signed goalkeeper Kat Assman. The Chicago Red Stars also signed a goalkeeper in Hallie Makowitz to a one-year contract for 2025. Makowitz was part of the draft class last year. She got drafted to Kansas City. She was dealing with a bit of a shoulder injury, and they put her on loan. She was sent to Sweden to play. She's back in the NWSL with the Red Stars. They've also signed Cameron Bigalski, a defender, to a one-year extension for 2025. Utah Royals, they're making moves, signing young player, 15-year-old KK Ream, a forward. So she's a professional now. Congratulations, KK. And other news, including signings and things, Brooklyn FC, they tap Kevin Tanejo as sporting director in the USL Super League. But all these trades and NWSL free agency signings, Darian, what stands out to you in this list of free agents that have signed?
Oh, Houston. Oh, Houston. So much to say. But I do like that they're, sorry guys, I'm trying to like escape the sun, but it's moving too quick for me to keep moving. But I like that Houston is shoring up their defense. They're making moves. I think Kristen Westphal is a great addition, re-signing Chappie, thinking about that backline with Paige Nielsen, Tarciane, if she stays. I know that that's up in the air. But I like this for Houston, similar to, I think it was you, Lisa, that was saying, or maybe Sandra, that a team needs to either shore up their defense first before building into the attack. And I think Houston's taking that on board and looking at who they're signing with these defenders. A lot of experience in that back line. A lot of consistent players that aren't out a lot. They play a very simple game. You know exactly what you're going to get. I think Houston has been craving that, and they've needed depth in the back. So I like this. This is a good step. And hell, signing a GM. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Professional soccer team, Houston Dash. Let's see it. I'm not fully convinced, but I think it's a good move. Delaney Sheehan also going there. They're obviously have some money. They're picking up players. I hope they're getting the bag. But let's see what else they continue to do, because they need a lot more adjustments still.
That's the name of the game for Houston. Money, money, money. They don't have a head coach. They've struggled, right? I think hiring a GM is a step in the right direction, but to get all these good players, I'm not convinced yet. I'm not. Steps in the right
fair
flash, but hey, it's got to translate on the pitch, because it's been the same old dance for Houston the last several years in the NWSL, just struggling. NWSL, they announced their top 25 best-selling kits of 2024. At the top of the list included San Diego Wave, I think it was called the Sunset Kit, Kansas City Current, Washington Spirit, and then a couple more San Diego. But in terms of the actual players, Alex Morgan, Temwa Shawinga, Trinity Rodman, Naomi Girma, and Jaden Shaw. Do you have any of these, Sandra? You rocking any of these kits?
No, somebody give me one of these kits, man. Look, good players in a cool kit. Turns out that's a winning high-selling combo. So not shocked that one of San Diego's kits, 3 players in the top 5. And look, Temwa Chewinga, very cool. Love to see it. Took her 1 season to get on this list. I love it. And of course, Trinity Rodman, player that we want to have and our ultimate A3 player for the style and the swag. So yeah, not too shocking that she's on this list either.
No, not at all surprised that San Diego has 3. Their kits were cool this year. They were really cool.
It.
So what'd you call them? Sunset Kiss kits?
Yeah, I think that's what they're called. Like
a sunset kit. A sunset kiss also sounds nice. The sunset kit.
Oh,
yeah, maybe that's what Darian was doing in Mexico. Hey. All right, guys, this was fun. Dee, we're so glad to have you back with us. It's been absolutely a blast. Guys, don't forget, We're nominated for not one, but 2 categories of the Sports Podcast Award, Best Football Podcast and Diverse Voices Award. And it is entirely decided by fans voting. So please go vote for us. Use the QR code on the screen. There's a link on YouTube, a link in the podcast description. Thank you for listening and tuning in. Go vote for us. Make sure you follow Attacking Third wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. You can watch us, youtube.com/Attacking Third, and on CBS Sports Golazo Network for all your women's football coverage. For Mark, Sandra, and Darian, I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.